Lorna Luft is bona fide entertainment royalty. Besides her stellar near 60-year showbiz career that continues to soar, Lorna's personal life has been full of twists and turns. She's triumphed over an addiction and won a fight with not only breast cancer, but also a brain tumour. Lorna is disarmingly candid and possesses a unique and infectious energy. Well, Lorna Luft, this is really great to see you again.
Oh, nice to see you.
You know, Lorna, when you talk about showbiz being in someone's DNA, let's face it, you really are the poster girl, aren't you? True entertainment royalty. Your grandparents were vaudevillians. Your mum, Judy Garland, icon, need we say more? Your father, Sidney Luft, impresario. Your half-sister, Liza Minnelli. Frank Sinatra, your godfather. I mean, to a lot of people, that's a big wow, isn't it?
You know, I guess it is, but it's my normal. I don't know anything different. I didn't know that all of these people, my mom and all of the people in my house, I didn't know they were famous. I didn't know they were legendary. I didn't know any of that. So I think you only know from where you come from. I think that when you are born into it, it's not a big deal.
Is this right? You actually began your showbiz career, I think you were 11, singing a Christmas song on your mum's show, The Judy Garland Show.
I did. And I thought it was the greatest thing because I got to get out of school for a week. But again, I didn't know the legend. I didn't know the icon. I knew the lady in the kitchen.
Yes.
In a bathrobe in the morning. I had to learn about the legend and I had to learn about the icon because I didn't know that.
So what was your mum like as a person, your fond memories?
She had a wicked sense of humor and she was really funny. And for all the people who didn't know her, when people would say to me, oh, you know, the tragic, and she hated that because she wasn't. And she used to say, I had tragedies in my life, but I wasn't tragic. But she was funny and she was kind and she was generous, really generous. I mean, she was also tiny. You know, she was only 4'11". If my sister or myself ever got into trouble, she'd always say, sit down when I yell at you. And I don't want to do this anymore. And she was complicated. But again, all of the things that I had to find out about her career, I had to learn. Okay, you know, she never sat down and talked to us. No, she just did it. And we were born into it. So we went on the road and we went to different theaters and we lived in different cities and we lived all over the place wherever she was working. And yes, we were sort of like gypsies. It was a really good education. And I've said this before, I got really good at geography.
Yeah.
I couldn't spell geography, but because I went to so many different schools. So, but that's how it was.
Your mum's been gone 53 years now. Lorna, other stars, other greats eventually fade away. Not your mother. She is as intriguing and fabulous now in 2022 as she was 60 years ago. Why does her legend live but so large? Because
people grew up with her. Because everyone from the age of, I don't know, 8 to 80 has seen The Wizard of Oz. They may not know her name, but they know that movie and they know the characters. Her work will always stand out for so many people of what she meant to people and what she helped them with. I mean, I get so many lovely, lovely messages of her music did this for me when I was going through, or her films did this for me, or her, and I think how lovely. And that's why, because of her body of work.
Do you have memories of your house being full of music, full of song?
No, because my mom, when she was home, she never wore makeup. She didn't sing. You know, people have this vision of her opening the refrigerator door and bursting into song. Okay. When we had people over and parties and things, yes, there would be someone at the piano, or if she was rehearsing. But that was her job. So I understand that because she associated certain things with work. Like, for instance, I associate makeup with work. Okay, so when I'm not doing anything, I very rarely, I scare the children because I never have all of this on. And I remember my daughter saying to me, I was putting on my makeup and she said, "Are you turning into Lorna Luft?" And I thought, okay, I get it.
I mean, to a lot of people looking from the outside in, your house growing up was kind of like Celebrity Central to you. They're just kind of family and friends. But, there was Frank Sinatra, there was Sammy Davis Jr. And I remember when last we spoke, you told me you woke up one day as a kid in bed and there was Marilyn Monroe sitting on the end of the bed.
That was at a party my mom and my dad had that night, and she came up to see us.
Right.
I guess I did wake up. I just remember the color of hair.
Yes.
I'd never seen anyone with that beautiful golden white hair. And she was very sweet, and that's all I remember. But I do remember that and color of hair. And I did ask my father, and he said, "Oh, Marilyn would come up and say, see if you guys." She loved kids.
Where do you think this framing of your mother being tragic came from? Because it's almost like Judy Garland goes hand in hand with that word tragic, and she was not. As you say, she was a joyous soul. She was smart. She was funny. She was anything but tragic. Where did that association come from?
My mother had a wonderful sense of humor about that. And we were living in Brentwood at the time in California, in Los Angeles. I think this was around the time she was doing her television show. And there was an office down the hall from right off the living room. And I remember I went into the office and I looked down and there was a great big red leather picture book. And I started going through it and there were just dreadful things in it, just awful events, tornadoes and hurricanes and all these things. And she happened to come in and I said, "Mama, what is this?" And she said, "Oh, darling, that's my tragedy book." I said, "What?" And she said, "Oh, my tragedy book." She said, "Whenever I think I have a problem, I can open this book and say, 'You think I have it bad? Look what happened to these people.'" Like, she said, "Oh, people don't want a happy Judy Garland." And I said, "Well, why?" And she'd say, "Oh, it doesn't make for good print," or something she'd say. But she knew that it would make her laugh.
And I know that term tragic, going hand in glove with your mum, infuriates you and your sister as well, because you know that she was anything but a tragic soul.
I know, we just find it really boring. We're always the ones who go, "No, no, no, no." And because we were there and we knew her. So, and as I said, she knew it, meaning she knew that was being said, and it used to make her laugh.
The other thing, the misconception, and I'm glad we're able to clear it up, is that people think Judy Garland, oh my gosh, she was this drug addict. She was not on heroin or cocaine. She was prescribed prescription pills. She took them on doctor's orders, thinking this was the right thing to do.
Yes, that is unfortunately something that we're still living with today. I hate to use the word victim because I don't like the word victim, but I think when it starts with a child, I think children are victims. And my mother was prescribed from the studios amphetamines because they really didn't know what they did. They knew that they cut your appetite, gave you some energy. And then, of course, she couldn't go to sleep. And so she was prescribed something else, but they were from doctors.
That's right.
You don't think that there is anything wrong with that. And I've never blamed the studios because they didn't go out to destroy their biggest moneymaker. They didn't know what they were doing. Nobody knew about addiction. Nobody had the word addiction in their language. It's something that has not gone away. It's something that I have known about my family for a very long time. am very happy, I guess, to say that I've been sober 37 years. So I understand my heritage, and I have seen the education, the knowledge of addiction. I've also seen it become less and less something that people should be ashamed of. And I think that's really important.
What was the turning point for you when you knew you needed to get help and to do something about it?
I got sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky that I got sober right down here in the desert at the Betty Ford Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very lucky. I was able to go somewhere and be taught, and it opened so many doors that had a question mark of why do I behave? Why do I do? Why do I keep doing? Why do I do? And once I learned about it, I thought, ding, 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 ding.
Mm-hmm.
Aha. It was up to me to want to be sober as much as I wanted to be non-sober. And I had to find that, and I did. And that is the real good news. The bad news was it wasn't there for my mom.
If it was there for your mum, do you think she'd have turned that corner? Do you think she too would have been sick and tired of feeling sick and tired?
She would have, but there wasn't anything for her. There were just more doctors. And the thing is that the doctors didn't have an education. They used to call it, in my mom's day and when I was growing up, the mysterious illness. It was mysterious. They didn't know what it was. And they didn't know it was not called a disease. That came later.
You know, you think about your life, Lorna, you were 16 when your mother passed away. Do you remember where you were when you got that news?
At a friend's house, and her mom had either turned on the radio or the television and found out.
Yes.
My friend's mom told me. So
how do you cope with that kind of shock, to be at a friend's house and somebody says, my gosh, Lorna, your mum's just gone?
It's one of the most gut-wrenching incidents that you will ever go through, to lose a parent. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're 16, it's a shock.
What was it like when you were finally able to sing her songs? Because I know you toured the world, and it just brought such joy to so many people seeing her daughter singing her songs. But I know for you, that must have been kind of odd to come to grips with in the beginning.
When you first decide to go into the business like I did, you're trying to make your own footsteps in the sand, and you're trying to be your own person, and you're trying to just maneuver your way into a career. And that's what I was doing in my 20s. And then in my 30s, I had my children. And then in your 40s, I found myself basically saying, all right, what am I going to tell them about their grandmother? And then I started to think, I think I've learned how to make friends with a ghost. But it took me that long to just come to terms with writing my book. I don't know how many books written about my mother, and none of those people were in my house. That's what made me write my first book. I never knew anybody hiding under a bed, scribbling down. I thought, who are these people? Who are these people that are writing these books about, about my mother? And I think that I remember the day that it happened to me. I was at a gym, and somebody said something about another book. They said, oh yeah, this book's coming out about your mom. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. And that's when I decided, okay, I have to tell the story of, I got to stand up. She can't tell the story of her being a parent. And I told my story. I didn't tell anybody else's, because that's up to them to tell. But this is how, when I wrote Me and My Shadows, it was about my life with her And I was very lucky. I mean, it was a New York Times bestseller. I was very lucky. And then, I mean, and I never, ever, ever thought it would go any further than a book. And then being able to do that miniseries,
Incredible.
which to me is the quintessential story about my mom. Judy Davis, we all know, is so gifted and so magnificent. She was so wonderful in the way she embodied. She didn't copy. She didn't want to do an impersonation. She embodied her. And it was quite remarkable to watch. It was eerie. It was sometimes really it was breathtaking. I mean, we were nominated for 13 Emmys. We won 5, which was extraordinary.
And rightly so. Your mum turned 100 in June.
Okay, she would really hate that.
I'm sure she would. I'm sure she would. But there was a perfume launch to celebrate.
I worked very, very hard in making this fragrance for my mom's 100th birthday. We are going on QVC, which I'm so excited about. October the 3rd, the 4th, and the 8th. It does look like her in performance. The 3 of us have written something here on this page. And I worked really hard with the designer of this perfume for 18 months. And I went through 100 scents.
How would you describe the scent, Lorna? How do you think it encapsulates your mum?
Well, we took the scent that she originally wore, which was a perfume called Magritte, and they don't make it anymore. And so we took that, and then we did a hybrid of that scent. Vincent and myself thought it was really important to make it unisex because that was her audience. Her audience was everyone.
Yep, totally.
But that became the hard part because a perfume either leans feminine or masculine, and then it has the 3 fragrances of what it smells like at the very beginning when you first try it, and then the middle is about 10 minutes after, and then about 15 to 20 minutes after that, that's the settling, and that's what it will smell like. And I learned all of this, and I had a lot of fun doing this. My house, well, it smelled like a French whorehouse. I mean, let's face it. I mean, and everybody smelled of different things. The dog, it just went on and on and on. And I knew we would get it right, but I went through 100 scents, and then I wanted to make sure that it had her rose, because there is a Judy Garland rose.
Yes.
And I want scent in the perfume. The hardest part for me was that I was doing this for her. So I had to sort of train myself to understand it's not what I like. Would she have liked this?
Yes.
Would she have liked the bottle? Would she have liked the design?
And your sister, Liza, I saw the most joyous interview with you two leading up to the launch of the perfume. And you were laughing and giggling and recalling. And she too is very proud of this perfume that you've created.
I did the legwork, okay, because I was the one that wanted this so much, and I wanted to. I worked very, very hard. I mean, she knew that of everything I was doing, but I just thought, what can I do to? I want to get this right, and it was, as I said, it was a real gift of love. And as I said, I have so much respect for people who design fragrances because, you know, we don't know what goes into them. We see it on the shelf when it comes out. We just pass by it. And now I look at things, I think, do you know how long that took to do that?
So you've been in showbiz now almost 60 years, sensational singer, theatre legend, movie star. Look, frankly, who doesn't love Grease 2? It's one of those, I suppose you'd call it a guilty pleasure. And what a wonderful cast. There was Michelle Pfeiffer, the gorgeous Maxwell Caulfield, the great Eve Arden, and you as one of the Pink Ladies. What are your memories of making that movie?
I had a blast making that movie. I really did. When Alan Carr and Robert Stigwood made the movie of Grease, I thought it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. And it's hard because Olivia Newton-John, she was special. She was really special. And so when Grease 2 happened, which was 4 years later, I think, I was really thrilled when I got cast in it. And I had so much fun on it. And when it came out, it got pretty well panned. It didn't do what they, thought. And I thought, because it took so long for them to do the part 2, because at first it was going to be called Summer School, and they wanted John and Olivia to do it. And then it went through all of these different kinds of episodes of making this sequel. And Alan had made a movie that was interesting, called Can't Stop the Music. Mm-hmm. And then he thought, well, why don't I just go back to what I know and do Grease 2? But over the years, this movie has gotten a whole new audience.
Oh, yes.
And
it's loved.
It's really loved.
You, of course, were Paulette, one of the Pink Ladies. Is this right? You got your Pink Ladies jacket back in 2019.
I did. Paramount Pictures would not let any of us, and I think that went for the first Grease movie also, they wouldn't let any of us have any of our wardrobe. They just said, we didn't give it to the first cast, so you guys aren't getting it either. And all I wanted was my jacket. Then years after that, they had an auction, and I read about it, and I thought, are you kidding me? So they had an auction, and they auctioned it all off. And I thought, okay, that's unfortunate. And I was doing the show Irving Berlin's White Christmas on tour. And one of our stage managers came to my dressing room and said, there's a lady here. She has something she'd like to give back to you, and I think you're going to want to meet her. And I said, oh, and I'm putting my face on all that. And she said, I said, well, what is it? She said, she has your Pink Lady jacket from Grease 2. She was so fantastic. And she said, I bought this at the Paramount auction, and I think it needs to go home now. And I got my jacket back. I was really, really thrilled. And then, funnily enough, after that story came out, Olivia got her leather jacket back too. And I thought that was really cool.
What was the fabulous Eve Arden like to work with? Because she was in the original Grease and, of course, Grease 2.
I thought that she was comedic genius. I thought she was the queen of the one-liners. I thought that she was great to look at. I thought that her timing was priceless, and nobody did takes looking at someone better than Eve Arden. I would literally sit in the trailer or wherever we were on set, and I would just talk to her. And she was so gorgeous and so generous. And she said, oh, I loved your mother so much. And she would always hold my hand. She was so wonderful. And Dodie Goodman.
Yes. And Dee Dee Khan.
Oh, and Dee Dee Khan. I love Dee Dee Khan. And I think that we all had this wonderful family of people on both movies. I'm grateful that I made the movie. I'm so grateful that new generations are discovering both movies, and
yes.
and having we went out to have a good time. We went out to make something that was fun.
And it shines through on the screen, Lorna. It really does. And then, of course, you
Yeah.
got to work with the wonderful Tab Hunter. Sadly, another one gone now. But what an absolute dreamboat was that man.
What he was, without a doubt, one of the kindest, funniest, dear, and wonderful. Right before he passed away, he came down to Palm Springs, and I was doing a charity event, and he was in the audience, and he just jumped up, and we hugged each other, and we were able to spend time together. I loved the documentary about him.
Yes, incredible. Tab Hunter Confidential.
I was so happy that he did that, and that he was finally able to come to peace with what happened to him.
Yeah, exactly.
And what happened to him as an actor, and what happened to him in society shunning the LGBTQ community. And I was just so proud of him for his being so brave to do that.
Another lovely moment, of course, with regard to Grease too. Matt Lattanzi starred in that. And I think that's where Matt and Olivia Newton-John kind of met and fell in love, isn't it?
They did. And I adored Matt. He was very, 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 very pretty to look at. But he and Olivia were just enthralled with one another. And it was lovely to see her that happy.
There was something about Olivia Newton-John, her inner strength, and this incredible belief, even though we knew that she'd been dealing with all forms of cancer from breast to bone, and it had metastasized every which way. But even when that news came through, you did a double take thinking, no, this can't be right. How did her passing affect you?
Well, I've been battling for 8 years.
I know.
So Olivia did a lot of unbelievable work for us. Her dedication to wanting to find medical and homeopathic and all of that work for cancer is remarkable, and it will go on. I was diagnosed 8 years ago, and I've been on many different kinds of chemotherapy. I'm now on immune therapy. I talk to people about this ride that I'm on. I'm incredibly grateful to the scientists, the doctors, for who I have gone down to the laboratories and seen cancer cells and looked at the way that they form and how they split apart. I needed to educate myself because I think that gives you strength and power. As everybody knows, it metastasized to a brain tumor.
Yes.
And I did have a brain tumor. One of my doctors said to me, the way that you're going to deal with this is as much a part of what the drugs and all of that are going to do. So your attitude is 90% of your healing. I thought to myself, okay. And it took me a while, but then I thought, I'm not going to let this define me, but I'm also not going to let it make me feel sorry for myself. And yeah, I sometimes I've gotten angry, and actually when I had the brain tumor, and that was after I went through a whole period of losing part of 7 of my ribs and having a full mastectomy and having them take my lateral muscle and put it up. My back's on my front, and I don't know which way to come into a room. And I mean, I gotta laugh at this, I do. I mean, okay, my back's on my front. And so when I had the brain tumor, I while I was being wheeled into the operating room, I said to the surgeon, listen, stop. I said, you got to do me a favor. And he said, now? And I said, yeah, now. And he said, okay. And I said, you've got to say, when you take this thing out, fuck you, she won. And
Go, Lorna.
And he did. He said, fuck you, I won because I'm the surgeon.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's all about billing. It's all showbiz. It's all about billing. That's fine. I'll give you that. It's good. I was lucky enough that my dear friend Barry Manilow called a very, very, very famous, wonderful, brilliant doctor, David Agus, and he said, we're going to fix this. We've come so far in the world of cancer. Are we ever going to cure it? I can honestly say for my lifetime, I don't know, but I do know we are learning to live with it.
How do I find you today? Are you doing well?
No, I'm fine. I made the decision to listen to these doctors, to follow what they have said, but they could not give me my attitude.
Yes.
I had to do that.
Yep. You found that yourself, didn't you?
You have to. And now I've talked to many, 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 many women and men who they get their first diagnosis.
Yes.
And it's basically, it's sort of like being dropped into the ocean and said, get to shore by yourself.
Yep.
Because you don't know which way to go. So I talk to a lot of people and I guide them through what they will be going through. And it's all pretty much the same test, the same thing, and making sure that they understand what doctor does what and which doctor to ask, and always ask the doctor. Don't think that you're smarter than they are. But as I said, it's not going to define me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so looking forward. I'm going to be doing the show Irving Berlin's White Christmas again.
Yay.
And I have to say, I never thought I would do this show again, not because of my health, but we finished the show 2 years ago and the pandemic hit. And I thought, are we ever going to be able to put together tours, big touring shows like this? And when I got the call from the UK and they said, we're doing the tour of White Christmas, would you like to? And I thought, you know something? It's like, for me, it's like that beautiful cashmere sweater. And the minute you put it on, it's all warm and you think, I know. And I thought, I get to do this show again. I'm so looking forward to joining a new White Christmas family. There are songs in this show that make everyone so happy.
Yes.
And that's what I love doing the show, because of the music. I mean, everybody, and they love the movie. They love the movie with Bing Crosby and my friend Rosemary Clooney and Vera Ellen and Danny Kaye.
Oh, yes.
But this is we brought it onto stage, and there's a wonderful message of humanity. And I play the innkeeper. I play the wonderful role that Mary Wicks played in the movie.
That's right.
And they've made her larger than life, and loud. I don't know why they keep casting me. And no idea. And to know that I get to sing at the end of that show, I'm dreaming of a White Christmas.
I have to share with you an incredible moment from earlier this year. It was at the Academy Awards, and it involved your sister and Lady Gaga. And it's one of those moments, Lorna, where I really almost choke up. That level of affection and camaraderie, and I've got your back, and I love you. How did that moment affect you?
Oh, I knew it was going to happen. Sorry. Okay, it wasn't a surprise.
Right.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew that they were both going to come out.
So, Lorna, how is your sister, Liza?
She's great. We talk, oh my God, we talk sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. but we talk at least, okay. But we talk all the time, and she's great. I have to say, I've had a lovely, if you want to call it, journey a little bit with Lady Gaga because of her wonderful version of A Star Is Born with Bradley Cooper.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And because I had written the book about all 5 A Star Is Borns, I knew Bradley Cooper, and Bradley took on something that was so enormous of doing a new A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
I was trepidatious because I thought, what are they gonna, how are they, wow, okay. And I was so wonderfully and pleasantly surprised. And I went to the premiere and I was able to tell Lady Gaga that. And she hugged me. And all she kept whispering in my ear was, I loved her so much.
Oh, wow.
And I knew what she meant. I was lucky enough to be at Elton's party the night that she won the Academy Award.
Yes.
Her work ethic is something that I respect so much.
Well, I've seen you in Australia several times, Lorna, and I have to say, from an audience point of view, you yourself are a masterclass because you are there with incredible elegance, incredible honesty, but also your talent just stands up stiff.
It takes a long time to learn to be comfortable in your own skin. And it takes a long time to realize that give the audience what they want. Talk about what they want to hear and what only you can talk about. And sometimes an audience will react to honesty. And I have to say, I learned that from my mother. My mother was the most honest performer that there ever was, because there was just a humanity about her that was so great. And it took me a long time to just find me. All right. And it did, because I didn't have anybody to teach me. So, I mean, like, I did a lot of, I dyed my hair purple and I sang rock and roll, and oh God, I spent too many nights at Studio 54. And I did all of that. I mean, I did it all. But then there was this little voice that said, pick up the torch. Yeah. Pick up the torch. But I have to say one thing, Craig, that I know we've talked. I just want to say to you that my love of Australia was taught to me by someone who was part of my family. And I'm very, very, very lucky, because Peter Allen was my brother-in-law.
Of course.
And Peter Allen was part of my family. And there have been a lot of stories and a lot of things said and a lot of misconceptions and a lot of things that I think that never happened. And I just want to say that he taught me about Australia.
So talented, and Lorna, taken, and I hate this cliche, but it's so true, taken way too soon.
Yep, but I keep in touch with his sister.
Yes.
And I literally will always hold Peter in nothing but light and nothing but love and nothing but laughter, because he was really funny.
And your sister loved him very much, didn't she?
Yes, and he became part of my family. He was my brother. Yeah. He was a big brother I never had. He would listen to me. He would, I mean, if I was having some, I don't know, 15-year-old drama, I know what that, I mean, can you imagine a 15-year-old girl having a drama? I mean, and he would sit there and say, oh, and he'd always say this to me, and he'd say, oh, it'll all be fun when your name is up in lights. And so I do sing Peter Allen, songs, because he was so, he was just, he mustn't be just pigeonholed into this sort of character. He was a real person. And he was someone who, I know that it's not the real national anthem of your country, but honey, when I hear people sing, I still call Australia home.
I know.
you go like this. I mean,
I
that's
know.
your big, big, big thing that Peter wrote.
I know. He's incredible. I also, a song that he wrote that gives me absolute chills is Quiet Please, There's a Lady on
Oh,
Stage.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and The Boy from Oz, I think, really captures his incredible exuberance and amazing, amazing talent and charm and wit. And Hugh Jackman on Broadway and all around the world did an astonishing job, I think, capturing the essence and spirit of the
I
great
have to
Peter
say,
Allen.
I mean, Hugh Jackman, I can't tell you how generous he is. And I met him way before, uh, I think he was this, I met him right after he did Sunset Boulevard, which is a long time
Yes.
ago.
Yeah.
He is one person that I can say has never changed, ever. He
Right.
is the same Hugh Jackman that I met right after Sunset Boulevard that he is now. He is funny, gifted, incredibly talented, generous, kind, all of the things that you want to be around. And it's so nice to see someone who has just hung on
Mm-hmm.
to what they were like when they first started, and they realized that this is all a game and you can be on the whatever happened to list in, a short period of time, and they have hung on for the ride. And that is what Hugh Jackman has done. He has one of the greatest reputations in this industry. People love him. And when I mean people who work with him, and I'm not talking about fellow actors, I'm talking about crew people, makeup people, people who really, and that to me, when I hear someone say, oh my God, I loved working with him so much, I think, yes, Hugh Jackman makes my heart happy.
Yep. And you make my heart happy, Lorna Luft. And it's so lovely hearing you talk about my favorite people, Hugh Jackman and Peter Allen and so forth. It's just gorgeous.
Love them.
That's right.
Yep.
Oh, you're a joy. You really are. My love to you, and I can't wait to catch up again.
Okay, well, I'm sending you big kisses.
Huge kisses
Got
back.
it. Oh, thanks, Craig. Thanks so much.